All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and we have two major Albert Breer reports today for the Washington Commanders. In his article, he talked about a lot of different things, but as far as the Commanders go, big news-wise, it's reported, well, at least he's saying that the Washington Commanders could potentially trade 2023 NFL draft picks within a few days to get capital to help with the attempt to move up for quarterback Caleb Williams out of USC in the 2024 NFL draft. You know he's getting a lot of Pat Mahomes comparisons. Hopefully Dylan Raiola, who may end up going to UGA, is probably the only guy after that that's getting Pat Mahomes comparisons. And everybody's assuming that this is going to be the next big time quarterback, top 5, top 7, elite level quarterback type of thing. And of course, this is Albert Breer just saying things, so I don't want to sit here and clickbait y'all and act like it's gonna happen. I just want to more so talk about the logic behind it in this video. Is it possible? Because we're assuming that we're gonna be pretty good and not have a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft. So how much capital would that take? Is it worth it? Is there even gonna be a team with the #1 overall pick that's willing to even trade back no matter what we offer them? Also, does Caleb Williams even want to play for the Washington Commanders? And then after that, we're gonna talk about how Albert Breer broke down why the Commanders should be sold by June 1st at the latest. So that's big news in itself. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I'm releasing an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every day part of the draft process. Thursday, the draft starts at 8 p.m. I'm streaming at 6:30. We'll be doing mock drafts together. I'll probably open up the phone lines for y'all to call in and give your opinions, ask whatever questions you may have. And I will live stream the entire first round on Thursday, the entire rounds 2 and 3 on Friday, and then also probably even live stream rounds 4 and 5 on Saturday. So make sure you pull up for all of the live streams. I'm really excited. Without further ado, let's get it. All right, so this all started when on MMQB, Albert Breer said that NFL insiders feel Commanders may trade picks to target Caleb Williams in 2024. The Washington Commanders have a major need at quarterback, but currently aren't scheduled to make a selection until the number 16 pick in the first round. So if they want to get in the mix for one of the top options in this year's drafts, they'll probably have to trade up the board. But the more likely outcome might be the Commanders moving back to accumulate more draft assets for 2024, namely with USC's Caleb Williams in mind. As the MMQB's Albert Breer reported on Monday, I and most teams would be very surprised if the Commanders took a quarterback, to the point where some have even speculated that the team could move capital into 2024 to ready for a run then at DC area native Williams. You probably have to be the worst team in the league to get him, because whoever that team is probably won't trade his rights away, like I was saying in the intro. In other words, Washington fans might want to brace themselves for a season of Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett, and Jake Fromm at quarterback, and that's most notably just talking about 2023 wise. Don't expect us to take a quarterback unless it's just somebody way later in the draft, maybe like a Dorian Thompson Robinson, like 5th round or later or something like that. Other than that, don't expect any big moves from the Commanders quarterback wise in 2023, but be on the lookout for them to make some moves in this upcoming draft within a few days to position themselves to be able to make a move for one of the top quarterbacks in 2024's class. You have Caleb Williams, you have Drake May, and you may even have a few more guys to where this upcoming class of 2024 may be even better than this 2023 one. But of course, the problem is, again, like I said earlier, and like I just read a few minutes ago, whoever has that #1 pick more than likely doesn't want to trade back no matter what you offer them. So that's why this conversation is a little silly, because it doesn't matter how much capital we gain for the 2024 draft with moves that we make in this 2023 draft. Doesn't matter if we trade players, if we trade picks to get more picks or whatever. It really doesn't matter, because whoever has the #1 overall pick, I highly doubt, no matter what we'd offer them, we'd be willing to trade back outside of the sweepstakes of getting Caleb Williams. Why would you pass up Caleb Williams for a bunch of first round picks where, again, a lot of people don't think about this. When teams make trades like that, say for example us, say for some crazy reason the team was willing to trade with us and give us the first overall pick to get Caleb Williams. If Caleb Williams is as good as everybody thinks, oh wow, Aaron Rodgers just got to trade it to the Jets officially now. But either way, if Caleb Williams is as elite potentially as everybody thinks, the Commanders Commanders in this example will be at the very least playoff contenders every year and potentially Super Bowl contenders as well. So those first round picks you get from us won't even be earlier first round picks anyway. So you got to think about that as the number one overall team. If you give up the chance to take Caleb Williams for first round picks, those first round picks won't even be higher ones anyway. Now maybe you could put them together to end up trading up the next draft to get an elite quarterback, but Caleb Williams is just this generational talent apparently, so it just doesn't make any sense at all, and there's just no way that we would get Caleb Williams unless we're literally the worst team in the NFL. Maybe if we had the third or fourth overall pick, and then maybe they'd be willing to take it, just like how the Carolina Panthers went from 9 to 1. Chicago Bears went from 1 to 9. Chicago Bears already have their quarterback, so it would have to be a combination of us getting very lucky to where the team with the first overall pick doesn't need a quarterback like Chicago, which is really rare. If you're the first overall pick, usually you're the first overall pick in the draft because you don't have a quarterback. That's usually what's gonna happen. And then it also has to be that level of luck, plus we would have to be absolutely terrible and at the very least have a top 10, top 9 pick like the Carolina Panthers had this year. And then they had to send a really good receiver, extremely underrated receiver in DJ Moore, along with some more picks as well. So who will we be trading? Are we trading Terry McLaurin and some first round picks to end up getting Caleb Williams? Like, we got to think about things like that. When you're thinking about, oh, it sounds so nice that we could have somehow end up getting Caleb Williams, you got to remember, man, it takes a lot to do it. First round picks and players. But again, it's not impossible because Chicago was willing to trade from first overall all the way down to 9. Again, that's extremely rare circumstances where the team with the number 1 overall pick doesn't need a quarterback, apparently. Going into the season, some people felt like they would, but the team around Justin Fields is just that bad. And then they also got lucky because Houston should have had the first overall pick, but then they folded it at the last second, winning a meaningless game for absolutely no reason. So you have to get lucky on so many levels for this to even be remotely possible. But it's still a fun thing to think about. Some people may think that we may be more interested in have a more realistic chance of getting Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, or Will Levis in this draft, or maybe Hendon Hooker a little later, maybe Dorian Thompson-Robinson way later. We'll see. I mean, of course, my boy Stetson Bennett is lingering out there, but I highly doubt that. And even as a Commanders fan, I'm not exactly sure how much I want him. But the thought process of forget this class, even though it's 16th overall, and we should make the playoffs this upcoming season, which we didn't do last year. So we're going to have a later pick in the 2024 draft than we have in this 2023 draft. And we're thinking that we'd be able to get our hands on Caleb Williams when we can't even find a way to get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud in this draft. We may not even be in reach of getting Anthony Richardson. So it's just very contradictory when you think about it. And then at the same time, if we're bad enough to get anywhere near in the reach of getting Caleb Williams, even say if we end up with the 9th overall pick like the Carolina Panthers had this upcoming draft, if we just end up with the 9th overall pick in the 2024 draft, don't you think Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew were probably kicked out the door by Josh Harrison group? They're probably bringing in a new head coach and GM if we perform poorly enough to where we're even in that range to trade up for Caleb Williams. And so then at that point, this is extremely contradictory for Ron Rivera and company, because right now they're coaching for their lives. They're coaching for their jobs. They need to win as many games as possible this 2023 regular season. They can't think far into the future about getting Caleb Williams in 2024 and beyond. They got to do everything they can to put together a winning team right now. So I do think we will trade picks in this draft. I do believe we will trade back, but I don't think it will be for 2024 picks. I think it will be to accumulate more second, third, fourth round picks in this draft with a very deep cornerback class. The sweet spot for linebackers is probably second, third round. Same thing for safeties, you know, late first, second round. Tight ends is a good sweet spot as well. So I do see us trading picks, but I don't see it being for a Caleb Williams long-term scenario like that. Because again, if we're bad enough to even get Caleb Williams, why would Ron Rivera do the next head coach a favor rather than saving himself right now by making those moves to not save his job this season in 2023, but to help the Commanders long-term for the next head coach and the next GM? It just doesn't make any sense at all. And then on top of all of that, now Caleb Williams was very excited when Dan Snyder officially announced, well, reporters announced that Dan Snyder was selling the team to Josh Harris officially like 2 weeks ago. Caleb Williams put on his story, thank goodness, because of course he grew up a Commanders fan, a Redskins fan, watching the football football team fan. He is from the DC area. But at the same time, when asked back in February what would be his top team to play for at the NFL level, he said the Dolphins, not even the Commanders. So I'm pretty sure if we, by some ridiculous miracle, ended up with him, he would be more than happy to play for us. But we're not even his top choice, just to go ahead and put that out there. But it is noteworthy that he is from the Washington, D.C. area with the Gonzaga and everything, and is potentially a Pat Mahomes clone. And again, as a Georgia Bulldog fan, I hope Dylan Raiola is next in line. And then next up, Albert Breer also talked about how the Commanders sale isn't final, but there's a timeline now for getting the deal done and getting Dan Snyder out of the NFL. He said, last week, I'm told the NFL got an outline of the agreement by Snyder to sell the franchise to a group fronted by Sixers and Devils owner Josh Harris for $6.05 billion. And while Snyder hasn't definitively said he's going through with it, the pieces are in place to complete the sale within about a month. First, the league must complete its examination and background work on the group, a process that will be fast-tracked since the league vetted Harris last year. So thank goodness for us when he was bidding on the Broncos. So thank goodness Josh Harris was trying to buy the Broncos. Because of that, it's going to make this process for him buying the Commanders go a little bit quicker and smoother. Part of that will be doing checks on Harris's partner, Mitchell Rales, the founder of Denair, a corporation with an enterprise value of close to $250 billion. Rales is widely respected and expected to be approved through the process along with Magic Johnson. They are committed to buying smaller pieces of the team. Already did a video breaking down the exact percentage that Josh Harris, Mitchell Rales, Magic Johnson, and a couple other guys have as far as this team goes buying it. You can go check that video out if you want to know the exact percentage that each of these guys are buying the team for. Not everybody, but those select few names. Given the track record of Harris and Rales, it's assumed that part is formality, but it is important to the owners. There's an assumption that the winning bidders will need to come up with billions more to build a new stadium in the DC area, especially in an economy in which getting public funding approved would be challenging. Again, Dan Snyder tried it back in 2018 to get a stadium in DC and Trump blocked it. Now, granted, Trump isn't the president anymore, but I'm not exactly sure if Josh Harris will have much better luck, but we'll see. Josh Harris has reportedly reached out to the DC area and officials and politicians to kind of snoop around and see if there's particular interest there to allow him to do it. Once approved by the finance committee, the owners will vote on the sale to Harris's group. The hope for now is that the vote happens at the league's spring meeting, which will be held at a hotel near the Vikings practice facility in Minnesota from May 22nd to May 24th. And the deal should close within 3 or 4 business days of the vote, which means by June 1st, a new era should be underway in DC. So Albert Breer is saying, based on everything he knows, everything that he's heard from past experiences with team sales and everything like that, the team should at the very least be sold by June 1st, which is great. Before we dive really heavy into off-season practices, before we get to training camp and all of that, that would be lovely. As for what to expect, there are 2 things that I think are relevant to know about the ownership group. First, Harris has learned a lot about running a team from Fanatic CEO Michael Rubin, his partner in ownership of the Sixers and Devils. And second, Rales is, in the words of one owner, a real guy who had the financial wherewithal to be the lead person in the ownership group, but preferred to be in more of a background role. So know-how and resources for a new cast of owners won't be a problem here, and that's great to hear. But yeah, man, major news. Caleb Williams to the Commanders in 2024. And I mean, in more realistic news, the Commanders should be sold by June 1st. That's very interesting. That's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Do you feel like the Caleb Williams situation is just as impossible as I do? And also, do you even feel like doing all of that for Caleb Williams is worth it when you have Sam Howell already on the team? How high are you on Sam Howell? How high are you on Caleb Williams? And compare the two and their situations. Sam Howell is already here for free. Compare the first round picks and players you would have to trade to get Caleb Williams if you think it's worth it. If, again, it's even possible. I feel like we could try to throw 3 first round picks and Terry McLaurin in there, and the first overall team probably be like, nah, we're taking Caleb Williams. But either way, let me know how you feel about all of that. Let me know how you feel about the report that the Commanders should be sold by June 1st. Also, how much do you believe Albert Breer and any of his sources or anything like that? Let me know that, of course, as well, because he's on and off. Sometimes he's on, sometimes he's off. Let me know that. And of course, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Please leave a like on this video if you'd like to, if you learn anything. And as always, man, I appreciate all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.